Hello everyone and welcome to the third and final part of our Breaking into Video Games panel. This is the last segment and we're going to be talking to our panel about the future of their role, the industry, and also get into some questions that have been submitted. So I'm going to be throwing, this is like the last segment, throwing everything at them. So I just want to say thank you to Next Gen Skills Academy because they've sent across some questions for the panel, which I'm going to pick a few now. And so we've spoken a lot about sort of getting into the industry and the challenges, and hopefully we've not scared too many people off by that. But I wanted to look at the other side and with this question, which is, what does the panel like about working in the games industry? So if we start with Saskia, if you want to start, we'll do clockwise, or at least as I'm looking at it, clockwise. Yeah, what do you like about working in the games industry?
Wow, what a wholesome question. I like this question a lot. Thank you to whoever asked it. It's hard to put into words, I think, or it's hard to pick one specific thing that I like about it. I guess for me personally, one thing I really like about games is that, very interdisciplinary by nature. It's, before I worked, actually in games and got a look behind the scenes, like as a consumer, I just had like zero idea what was going on behind the scenes, like I knew obviously people were spending lots of time and working hard to like make the game, right? And then obviously as a consumer, then I got to enjoy the fruits of their labor and like have a good time and stuff. But, I just really just didn't really just know anything about the process and how hard people were working to like get this final product out. And now that I'm actually, working in games myself, I can really appreciate like how difficult it is to actually like make and ship a game. Like it's so hard. It's so hard to get people from different disciplines to work together, have a cohesive vision, create something within like a certain time frame. And it's just so impressive, honestly. Like so many people like top of their game, and everyone, has, so many great ideas and so many amazing things to contribute. And seeing something come to life in that way, everyone, whether a coder, artist, designer, everyone like, adding their own little touch, like, for example, if we were previously working on something and like the environment artists were like doing their job, dressing up the environment, it looked so amazing to walk around in. But then the sound designers came in and just like added like street sounds or whatever, just like random stuff. And you're like, oh my God, it came to life, just like something, like that you wouldn't even usually like think about, but it makes such a big difference, right? Compared to walking around like a static environment, suddenly it feels like there's a real city or like a real environment or whatever, like going on around you. And that's just like so amazing to me. Like how everyone can work together and, work towards this like one goal, like together, and actually end up with something, amazing and fun at the end of it is so impressive. And yeah, I like seeing it happen, I like seeing it take shape before my eyes.
Cool. Yeah, no, I like the sound of it. I do like that about the sort of creative process, especially when you've got a team of different people, like you say, and being able to like, oh wow, we actually got this together. And it always, like I always want to, when I see like certain reactions on social media when games get delayed and things, and just think like it's amazing you got a game anyway, especially in a pandemic. Like you have no idea like how difficult that is. It's not just a button that you press and the game comes out. So yeah, seeing the process is really good to be aware of. Matt, same question to you. What do you like about working in the games industry?
Yeah, I think there's two main things. Like one, like I really like the people in the industry. We kind of mentioned this earlier, but like people are pretty nice, and everyone's doing it because they love making games, whether it's production, law, or like code, art, whatever. People love doing it. So generally, everyone's really passionate. So kind of, I really enjoy being around those people. Yeah, that's super cool. And then the other thing is kind of linked to what you were saying, Saskia, is I really like creating something that wasn't there before. And I love this even more as an indie developer because I'm doing more of the game and I'm crafting this sort of whole experience. So I've got kind of a like I worked as an animator in the industry beforehand, and that was what I did. Now I'm looking at the game design because I'm looking at how my animations are going to be driving that game design, and rather than someone coming and saying, hey, this is the design, let's do this, I'm kind of making those decisions and it all starts to blend together. And then we've taken the game to kind of loads of shows and things like that around the country, and when you see someone play your game and laugh, it's like the best thing ever. Like that thing didn't exist beforehand, and like the stuff that you've done has brought them that experience. Yeah, it's pretty magic.
Yeah, I like that, and I think that's the best thing about like creativity, like you say, is making something that wasn't there before and then getting that response. Like I remember back in the old times of conventions and traveling to them, is just having people like for our manga, like get our buy a manga. And I remember there'd be people who sometimes will come back the next day if it's like a 2-day or 3-day convention and be like, I read it and I love these characters. I'm like, first of all, whoa, you actually read it? Like back to that imposter syndrome. I thought you were just humoring me by buying this book, but you read it and you like these characters. Like, okay, that's really cool because, yeah, that book wasn't there before I created it and put it out. So we can definitely appreciate that. Obviously, Chris, I don't know if you were going to say either of those. Can't say that now, so you got to come up with something else, some other reasons. I don't know if you got one, but what do you like about working in the industry?
I'm going to be hard pressed to find something that is.
You got nothing. We've taken all the good answers.
Right. The thing is that I think for the longest time, maybe I don't know. This is not my therapy session, but for the longest time, for me, something that I was really worried about is that because I had come from outside of games, there were always going to be people that were better than me. I was never going to be able to be the best at what I was doing. And so, like, what was even the point? Like, you know, there's always going to be... Sometimes I look at portfolios now, and they're like a student. Like, oh my God, you're better than I am. You're so good. It makes me sad at how good you are. Because of the fact that it's like, you know, you've just been doing it longer, and it's simple as that. So there are lots of opportunities where you can doubt yourself and think, like, what's the point? I'm not going to be the best. I'm never going to be close to being the best. So, like, why would someone want to hire me? And I think that the difference is that in a kind of combination of all of those points, is that I also thought for myself, I was like, you know, why did I spend all that time doing a drama degree if I'm not going to pursue that? You know, why? Like, what was even the point? Like, I have this acting experience and all this useless knowledge about dramaturgy and like filming techniques. It's used for nothing. But the thing that I realized, which is my point here, is that it doesn't actually really matter what you're making as long as you're making. And that's the thing that when I started to actually make stuff, like when I actually started to make my own first effect, I mean, I can remember the very first effect that I ever made, and I can picture it clear as day. And I can remember the comments that I got on the LinkedIn post, like almost verbatim in my head, because it was like that moment where I was like, I made that thing, like I fully made that myself, and it's so like. I'm so proud of the fact that I made it when I didn't really know what I was doing. And the more you do that, you realize it's never really about the very specific thing you're making. It's like the act of creating something, like you said, Matt, like that it had never existed before. And, you know, it could be anything. And, you know, there's a lot of times in the games industry where you make something and it just gets thrown away because it just wasn't right. You know, it doesn't play test well, etc. But as soon as you fall in love with the idea of making things in general, it doesn't really matter what happens at the end of it, because you're like, oh, I had fun along the way. Like, I got to sit there and make the thing. Like, that's why game jams can be so fun, just because you're like, it's not going anywhere. Like, it's actually just for the sake of us having a thing at the end of it to play a game. Yeah, like, there's just a lot of fun. Like there's so much fun in being able to be like, and then we just slap this thing on, and then like you say, Saskia, like the moment that you add sound to something, It's like absolute chef kiss moment. Like I remember the first time that I made an effect and then a sound designer then was like, oh, by the way, what do you think of this? It's like, oh my God, you added sound to a thing I made. That's so cool. You've made it so much better. And it's that like really dumb, giddy, like I'm a child and we're all like throwing paint at the wall and then realizing what you've actually done at the end. Yeah, it's just really fun, that moment of like collaborating with lots of people, having fun making stuff and then throwing it away and then making it better. And then hopefully at the end of it, you have a product. Or the better yet, you now know what not to do. And so next time you go to it, you're like, sick. Remember all those things we did? They were bad. Let's never do them again. Yeah, I think, taking it a little bit not so seriously, because obviously it is a job, you have expectations, you things you need to do, but there's just a lot of fun in the kind of noodling around and making stuff with people who are like very smart and very talented and do stuff that you're like, oh my God, I don't even know how you made that, but it's just really cool. Yeah, it's just very fun to work with people who also like making stuff too.
I just add something. One other small thing I really like about games is that you work with people who also like games, so it's not weird that you like games and you can talk about games together. Because I've worked for places where people didn't really play games, and I couldn't get excited about stuff with anyone, I couldn't be like, after I saw Nintendo Direct, be like, did you guys see the Nintendo Direct? Everyone's like, what are you talking about? I don't play games. So that's really nice. You can like geek out about stuff together. I really appreciate that. Yeah.
No, that is... You don't always appreciate it until you're in a situation where it's not that, and you're like, oh wow, there are places where people have like a passion and they can't share that with others where they work, whereas you can all do that. You can say like, did you see the last Nintendo Direct? I actually missed half of it, but I caught most of it. But yeah, you could say like, did you see it? What did you think? And why haven't they done a Switch Pro and all that kind of things? And people know what you're talking about. So it's a good place to be in that sense. I like this question. So I've got another question submitted from Next Gen, and it's, if you could wave a magic wand, what game would you have loved to work on? And I want to add to that, what role, if not the one you're already working on, and why? So anyone can jump in with that one. I'll just throw that one out.
I have an answer. Well, no, I have two answers. So on one hand, I would love to have been able to work on The Last of Us Part 2.
Ooh.
But would I have been able to stop myself from just sobbing every day?
I know,
because
right?
I love the game so much. Maybe. Or maybe it would have ruined the magic. I always think, imagine if I'd worked on a game that I loved. Maybe it would have spoiled it.
But would you mess it up? Like, would you?
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, for a start, maybe I would have screwed everything up. Maybe I would have been the worst VFX artist that's ever existed. No to man. And every single time you shoot someone, confetti flies out.
Yeah, it's like, why would this happen?
But like, I wonder, because part of the magic of it's like seeing like a magician's show. It's the reason why it's good is because you don't know how they did it. Whereas when you can just look at it and be like, oh, well, actually, I could clearly see you've got the card up your sleeve. It kind of ruins that childlike wonder. So watching someone, like playing someone else's games when you don't know how they did it, and you're like, oh, wow, that's so cool. Like, that's so sick how you made that. So that's like an answer, but then I'm always like, would that have been a bad idea? So I think my safe answer is I would have loved to work on like an MMO, like Black Desert Online or World of Warcraft or Perfect World or even like RuneScape back in the day, like as like a first big MMO, because they're always full of magic. And I'm like, I would have loved to have made that magic. I would love to be like, just go crazy and just add whatever kind of magic you want. And it'd be kind of not limitless, but there's so much variety and stuff. So, I mean, it would have still been as a VFX artist because I'm basic and I like that. But yeah, just a whole lot of magic on it.
Okay. Anyone else want to add
yes.
A game?
Thank you to Chris, because now I had some time to think about it, because I didn't have like a response immediately lined up. So I think I also have kind of two responses. My first one would be, I would have really liked to have worked on Hades, because first of all, really admire Supergiant Games, really awesome, amazing how much work they've done considering their small team, over the years and stuff. And they seem to treat their employees really well. But yeah, I always really loved Greek mythology growing up. Always loved reading about them, watching TV shows, whatever, movies, adaptations. Just always really into it, like the drama and the intrigue, and it's just like, so it's just like really fun. And I think Hades, the game, really captures, I think, the feeling of Greek mythology really well. Like all the complicated relationships the characters have with each other. I think, yeah, it's just a really incredible game. And maybe if I could have worked on the narrative of that would have been really cool, because I could have used all the time I spent, reading about Greek myth, I could have actually put them to use, which, would be really cool, right? Because then when I think about, past Saskia as a kid, reading all that stuff, would be like, yeah, girl, you did great, It was a great choice you made. Yeah. Reading all that stuff, came in useful in the future. So yeah, big fan of Hades, big fan of Supergiant games. And then I guess just like I could work on a Nintendo game, that'd be really cool. Like I don't even care like what role, like any role, but yeah, I really admire Nintendo like as a company. Grew up with a lot of Nintendo games, and I really like a lot of their like game design philosophies and stuff, and like their games, have such a sense of like wonder, and like fun and joy in them, and that I really appreciate. And I'd love to just, what is it like behind the scenes, like, or like working on a Pokemon game, like what's the process of making a Pokemon? I've always been curious. How do people come up with them? How do they decide what to name them, what they look like, the typing, the moves, like. Yeah, it's always really intrigued me. Who are the people who are making these big decisions, Designing a Pokemon, that's a huge responsibility. So love to just like get a peek, what are they up to?
Okay.
Yeah, those are my responses.
Cool. And Matt, how about yourself? If you had that wand, where are you?
So not so much a game as such, but like I'd love to work in the like N64, PS1 era where like 3D was taking off. Like games nowadays, there's so much going on and so many like pipelines and processes and stuff like that. Like it'd be interesting to see what it would be like when it was a little bit more simple and you had to be a little bit more creative with how you did things. So like a lot of models will have like 7 different texture maps applied to them that do different things. Whereas in the past you would have just had your color map, and you'd be using that color map to suggest detail and using things in different ways. So although there are kind of loads of constraints that developers have nowadays, like it'd been really interesting to work with the constraints of working with a system like that, and then also work on a game that when you release it, that's it. There's not a day one patch, there's no updates or anything like that. So like I don't know if the pressure was like crazy to get it like spot on as you release it sort of thing, but yeah, I think like that era of games would be super fun to work on, and like having to come up with really creative solutions to achieve like really like big effects that would spark people's imagination and stuff like that.
Yeah, I like that. That's a good era, and I like the reasoning for that as well. I would say I don't know if anyone played the original Deus Ex game by Warren Spector. So it's kind of I was going to say cyberpunk. It's not, I guess, kind of cyberpunk-ish kind of game, but that sort of thriller, mystery, heavy use of technology in the game, in the story. Very good narrative in the story, and made by Warren Spector is one of those, you get, I guess, like thinkers or people that have visionaries in games, and I always feel like it would be good to work kind of like Saskia, any role, anywhere in that process, just to hear like what those kind of people are thinking about as they make the games and as they use the technology that's available to them to bring these like grand visions to life. So yeah, I like that. So thank you to Next Gen for sending us questions. I do have a few more before we finish, and like as we've been talking about this all throughout the panel about getting into games, breaking into games, and future generations. So I wonder from everyone really, but because Chris and Saskia, you're the ones that have just like broken into games, is that what do you think video game companies or organizations can do to prepare and support like future generations on their way into games? And maybe Matt, also you can kind of give your perspective on that too. But I'll again throw that out for anyone that wants to pick it up and give their thoughts.
I don't know how to necessarily like practically go about this, but I definitely think that there is a lot of value in studios kind of, I mean, it's funny as you say to Saskia about like wanting to look at like what's really going on at Nintendo. Those kinds of things of like a studio kind of just lifting the curtain for a second and getting a peek in on the development process, I think are so useful. I know like Riot has done stuff like that where there are a few for VFX as well, but which is why I know them. But there are a bunch of other different disciplines as well where they basically just sat down with a game designer or a programmer or a sound designer and been like, what do you do in the day at your job? And you know, what's the process like? How did you get into it? And I think there's something very tangible and believable. Like Matt, you were saying earlier about like them trusting you more because you've really done it. Seeing someone who's like literally sat at their desk in their studio in LA, like at Riot, being like, this is what I make and this is how I would do it. I think there's something that kind of grounds that knowledge in letting people know what really does exist and, you know, how to go about doing it. And it's something that's going to be very, very different in every single studio as well. So getting as many different perspectives on things and how each studio does it, and how they go about doing those things lets people know what jobs exist and, you know, how to go about finding them and how to go about getting started in them. And yeah, like anything that studios can do in general to support that is always, it's like democratizing knowledge is always going to be the best way to make sure that people have the best opportunity at doing stuff, because, you know, not everybody can go to university, not everybody has, like, you know, maybe some people have already gone to university and it's too late, they can't afford to go back. You know, not everybody can go to the same university, so not everybody has the same modules and lecturers and learning. So as much as knowledge about things that can kind of be quite I don't know, opaque, can be democratized and freely distributed to everyone is the easiest way for people to make sure that everyone has like a fair chance at things.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I think like we touched on it in this discussion, where just not knowing I can do this role, or not knowing what was involved, or the pathways to just that can open up so much. Because I've always feel like once you have that awareness and that aspiration, like whether it's university, college, university, or what, like Chris, what you did, just go and learn, go on YouTube and learn. But you have to know that this thing exists and this thing is a possibility. So I definitely agree with that.
Yeah, definitely want to echo what Chris said. I definitely agree with a lot of that. And I just want to add that, I think I already talked about kind of my specific example and like how big of a demand there was for like the entry scheme that I applied to. So I feel like oftentimes, or I think one kind of maybe overlooked aspect that I kind of want to touch on is, supporting people, once they're actually in the industry, and also kind of, making sure that, the industry is in like a good enough place that people will actually want to join, because, there are no shortage of negative headlines when it comes to the gaming industry, right? And there's still a lot of issues that we're trying to solve, whether it's like crunching or like sexual harassment or whatever. So there are, still a lot of like, admittedly like bad things that are happening within the industry, like the lawsuit, like with Activision Blizzard, for example, that's still like an ongoing thing. And, when people see those things in the headlines, they're like, oof, do I really want to work in games? Like, it sounds really bad. Or like, if I'm a woman, do I really want to like put myself in that kind of environment? And I had some of those, like doubts myself before I came in. I was like, what if I, get in like a bad situation or whatever, or like I meet the wrong people, or I don't know. Like, I definitely had those thoughts in my mind. So I feel like, like as an industry, like, actively working to combat those things, right? To attempt to eradicate those things from within our industry will go a long way towards encouraging people, to actually pursue it seriously as a career. And, I think, making it into the industry is one thing, but then actually feeling like you can thrive and that like you're supported and stuff and people can like, help you and advocate for you. That's like a big thing too. And that's oftentimes like the harder work, right? Because that's like actively putting in the effort and stuff. And, I've heard, lots of stories of people who do end up leaving the games industry for one reason or another, either because they've had bad experiences or because maybe they're not getting paid enough or whatever. So, I feel like there's still like a lot that needs to be done. And, opening up the doors for people is one thing, but then also like making sure that, people actually can continue to like sustainably work in games is also like a big thing.
Yeah, that's an important point because I learned that over the past year where, we have this idea of improving diversity and bringing more people in the door, but then it's like you have to keep them there or you want to keep them there. And the thing with diversity is that you then get different people. So that's the idea. You want different people, different backgrounds, different experiences bringing to the table. But then you have you might have a system that's set up for like one type of experience, and then that comes against the idea of diversity. So you might then bring a bunch of people through the door, but then they realize like, oh, actually, this is not necessarily for me, and then like you say, Saskia, they might leave for those reasons. So it's about once they're there, how do you ensure that you have the inclusion part to diversity that people can feel like, oh, actually, I'm supposed to be there. I can contribute. I can progress. I can do all that stuff and still be like who I am. So yeah, that makes sense.
Thank you. You summarized that way better. I feel like I went a little bit all over the place, but you summarized it really well. Thank you. Yeah, that's what I wanted to say.
Cool. Okay, I'll just like take my voice and then put it on to yours, and then when I do that, but yeah. So Matt, is there anything that you wanted to add in terms of, especially again, like I mentioned, as a lecturer, as someone who's in and amongst young people looking to get into the industry, is like, what can the industry do to support future generations?
Yeah, I reckon keep engaging with education and look at what they're doing. Like, so we mentioned it earlier, like, hey, we've got this entry level role and you need to have shipped 3 titles or whatever. Like looking at that, like I'm seeing it, like there's more companies that are like engaging and looking, and particularly at college level as well. So a lot of people like look at university, but there's a lot of college kids out there that, they've done 2 years, which is almost a full degree. So if someone was to start a degree and they had no experience before, they're going to be close to what our guys are doing. And we've had students go into placements and industry have been like surprised with what they've done, and there's a lot of young people now that are actually really put off by university with the fees and the structure of it and things like that, and like it works really well for some people but not for others. So like looking at students that have done like courses like the one that we deliver and what they can do, and thinking about how they could integrate into your company, and you could almost offer that university like experience almost, but through a company, and you're not ingraining any bad habits in people that are learning professionally. Kind of like following on from this as well, like apprenticeships as well, because typically they've been in like an electrician apprenticeship. You hear about them all the time, people doing stuff like that, but games apprenticeships tend to be not heard about as much. I know Next Gen are doing a lot of work to kind of develop more of those with a range of studios. So I think that's like a really good alternative for people, because some young people will think like, I don't want to go to university, but I'm not good enough to get into the industry, and then that's it, and then they can't, and then maybe they'll go off and do something else, or they're working something that they don't like because they can't see that route in. So I think definitely kind of staying in the loop with what education's doing, looking at what people, what students are doing, because I think I'd be surprised at what like some of our kind of college leavers at 18 can actually do.
Yeah, no, I second that. Definitely, like, age is to a certain extent, it's just not a thing. Just because you're like under 18 doesn't mean you don't have the will, the technical skills, or at least can like develop those technical skills as well as someone in their 20s or 30s or whatever. So, I agree with that. All right, and my last question, I will throw out again. What games are people playing? That's just like other than your own, especially Matt, because I assume you're playing a lot of your own game. But what games are people playing? Or is there a game in particular you're looking forward to coming out?
So about 5 hours ago, I had my brand new PlayStation 5 arrive.
Ooh.
And at lunchtime, I quickly set it up, downloaded Kena Bridge of Spirits.
Oh, I've downloaded that too.
And I'm going to get some takeaway later, and I'm going to go play that until sunrise, because I've been looking forward to that game for like years. And I wanted a PS5 for ages, and then literally like last week, I was like, I've had enough. I'm getting one. I'm making it happen.
We're doing this.
Today it arrived. So yeah, I am very much looking forward to playing Kena Bridge of Spirits, because it looks absolutely goddamn beautiful.
Yeah, that's on my list. It's downloaded. It's ready. It's on my list of shame, my growing list of shame. Even though it just came out, but still. Anyone else?
Yeah. One really nice thing about the pandemic, for me at least, has been that I've really started tackling my gaming backlog, because I feel like, when the pandemic wasn't happening, there's like so much going on in your life, whatever. Like, it's hard, right? New games are always coming out. You're always like buying new games on like during Steam sales or whatever. But then during the pandemic, I was like, okay, I'm going to be disciplined. I'm not going to buy any new games until I like play through a certain number of my own games. It's been really awesome, because I've been making a lot of progress and just playing stuff that, otherwise I didn't like find the time for, or like didn't like focus on, basically. So currently I'm playing the Ace Attorney trilogy on Nintendo Switch.
Okay.
For some reason, I never played the games when they first came out. With big oversight on my part, 12-year-old Saskia really messed up in not playing them. One of my friends literally decided to study law because of Ace Attorney. So like, it's a hugely influential series. Like, I do get that. But I'm finally making up for it. I'm finally playing the games now on the Switch, really enjoying them. They hold up so well, like considering they came out so long ago. So that's been really fun. And I've been playing Pokemon White 2 on my 3DS because I didn't like Gen 5 very much when it first came out. I don't know why, but then I recently got back into it. It's actually really good. And I totally like misjudged it when it first came out. It really holds up really well. So that's been really fun. And occasionally I'm playing Pokemon Unite with my friends, because it's free and it's easy to play with friends. So, and there's cross-play. So sometimes it's nice to just play with other people, like be sociable, like that kind of thing, I guess. So yeah, that's what I've been. Oh yeah, in terms of what I'm looking forward to, there was a Wholesome Direct a couple months ago, and there was a game they announced there called Luddle Knots, which I think has like a Kickstarter, which I don't know if it's still running, but it looks really cute. You're like this little astronaut. You have this like little underwater suit, and like you're like taking care of this underwater environment, and there's these like little creatures called Luddles, and you help grow them and stuff, and it looks really sweet. So I want to play that when it comes out. It looks very wholesome.
Cool. All right, and Matt, how about yourself?
So I'm also playing Pokemon Unite. Yeah, like I tend to be relatively busy, and it's quite nice to slot in because the games are really short.
Yeah, it's 10 minutes, right?
10 minutes, or there's 5-minute games as well. So like, even if I only play for like 20 minutes a day, I can do dailies and feel like I'm making a little bit of progress. I also just love being a Pokemon and running around and using moves rather than like commanding them to do moves sort of thing. It's cool just like running around being a Pokemon. One of the last games I played as well was Hades 2, and I really loved that game, and that was similar, like really nice bite-sized chunks of gameplay where you could do a run and kind of replay it. We got like a puppy last year, so like having bite-sized games was nice rather than the big long sit down. It kind of fits in. So
Cool.
And then in terms of like looking forward to stuff, Metroid Prime 3 would be super cool. Like because all the mystery around it and things like that. That's probably like the most interesting game, but I don't even know if there's any details on it yet. I haven't looked into it for a while.
No, other than they restarted development, right?
Twice.
Oh, twice. Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, my boyfriend is obsessed with Metroid Prime, so like he's been following it like closely, and he's like, they cancelled it again.
I remember in like I was in like a group chat or something, or in like a Facebook group, and someone had posted a screenshot. They literally looked up some dude on LinkedIn who previously worked on God of War, I think. So previously worked at Santa Monica Studios, and that they stalked this person's LinkedIn, and they're like, oh my god, they've switched jobs. They're now working on Metroid. And I was like, where'd you get this information? Like, are you stalking these people on LinkedIn? Like, looking for job updates? And they're, like, posting the screenshot of, like, their LinkedIn. I was like, oh, man.
That is some
commitment.
Level. That's anticipation. Yeah. Turn people into detectives.
Something's happening.
Put this here, this means that, connect this with here.
Like
the game's coming out in April.
Charlie from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, the conspiracy meme.
Wow. That's dedication. I am playing, I started Horizon because I'm late to things. So started working my way for that. Also started Ratchet & Clank because I start many things. I'm trying to finish things. I'm looking forward to God of War. That is it. It's just the future is God of War. That is all I see in Horizon. All other games will fall by the wayside when that comes into my PS5. So that is me. But thank you everyone for taking part. I just want to make sure I let the people know where they can find you. So we'll do a clockwise thing again, at least from my perspective. So Saskia, where can people find about you, your company, and anything? Well, I guess you can't always talk about certain things within the company, but at least where can people find you online?
Yeah. I have a Twitter. I don't tweet a lot. So if you do decide to follow me, then, keep your expectations measured. It's at Saskia and then YXT. All caps lock doesn't matter, right? Or does it matter?
I don't think it does.
Twitter handles?
No.
I'm actually not sure. But yeah, I write it the YXT.
She did say she doesn't post
caps.
a lot, so.
Yeah. So yeah, YXT in all caps. And yeah, I work for the Chinese Room, which I believe is at Chinese Room on Twitter. So yeah, we have a pretty nice Twitter, so feel free to follow the Chinese Room. And we actually do have something coming out, which I can talk about, which is very nice.
Okay.
It really sucks working in game development when you can't talk about what you're working on. You have to keep it all inside, but I can talk about something which is, so we released a game called Little Orpheus on Apple Arcade last year, which is really awesome. And now we can release the game on other platforms. So we're no longer tied to Apple Arcade. So Little Orpheus is coming out to PC and console. So you can check that out, and that's my shout out.
Cool. Okay. And Matt, where can people find out about the work you do?
Probably the best place is Twitter. So we post all of our kind of game updates. So our game's called Squishy Sports. You can @Squishy Sports on Twitter, and you'll see all of the game updates. It's super duper regular. There's generally a tweet going out every day, so you'll see like little nuggets of what we're working on and things like that. The game is also on Steam, so you can have a look at it there, and if you like it, you can wishlist it. Yeah, that's probably the best place. Like, I'm also on Twitter, but I mainly just retweet what I'm doing on my studio stuff. LinkedIn as well, just as my name. Cool.
And Chris, how about yourself?
Yeah, same. I am Twitter. I am bound to Twitter with my soul. So that is where you will find me most commonly. I am just @NotSoLittleC. And then, or just Chris Sayers. And then on LinkedIn, just Chris Sayers. And on ArtStation, Chris Sayers. I have the same profile picture on every single social media that exists. So if you find me somewhere, I will look the same everywhere. I took one good photo 6 years ago, and I'm riding that until
riding it all the way.
So yeah, I'm the same everywhere. VFX artist at Mediatonic. If you don't already know Mediatonic already, we made Fall Guys. I didn't make Fall Guys. I don't work on Fall Guys. I can't answer questions about Fall Guys. I don't know anything about Fall Guys. I do not work on Fall Guys. Disclaimer: I do not.
Just get that all out there. Yeah, I'm not the one you want.
How many people ask you that? Must be so many, right?
Every single time I do anything, it's like, oh my god, you made Fall Guys. Which, you know, like, honestly, like, Fall Guys is great. I'm very proud to work with you tonight. Fall Guys is a super great game. I mean, if you also didn't know, we were recently bought by Epic Games. I also do not work on Fortnite. I know nothing about Fortnite. But yes, I cannot help unblock your Fortnite account, which I've had people ask me. You
can't talk to someone? Yeah, hook that up?
No, I don't know anyone. Pretend I know no one. I'm working on an unannounced project. So yeah, I hard relate to not being able to talk about anything. I worked on a project for 18 months and then it got canned. And then I've been on another project for a year that can't get announced. So I have made no games and they exist nowhere in the world. But yeah, not so little C or Chris Sayers everywhere. VFX artist at Mediatonic London.
Cool.
Can I just do one more? I want to shout out Bayman Games, which is the organization I volunteer for. And that's actually how I met Nigel the first time.
Yeah.
We actually met before the pandemic. So Nigel came to a few of our Bayman Games events. So we met there, which is cool. So yeah, what's nice about games is people are always connected in all sorts of like weird ways, lots of connections everywhere and stuff. And yeah, I'm really happy I got to meet Nigel through that. And like, Bayman Games is... We are a nonprofit, volunteer-run organization, and we just like do events and mostly focusing on like improving diversity within games, encouraging more diverse talent to work in the gaming industry. So, feel free to check us out. We have a Twitter and stuff. It's always here to support a good cause.
Cool.
Actually, a really good shout. Sorry, I'm going to piggyback off that because so I'm a video games ambassador for Intergames, which is a part of Yuki. That's how I found out about this wonderful podcast. I would highly recommend, if you're someone that's interested in games, taking a look at Intergames on their Twitter. They are at IntergamesHQ, or you can follow at Yuki, which is UK_IE. Or there's a Discord for the Intergames as well. Very, very, very much recommend checking it out if you're interested in the career in games. The Discord currently has, I think, about 5,000 people on there, and that's industry professionals, students, hobbyists, very much interested in helping the knowledge share. Also, Intergames run the Kickstarter program that's in partnership with the government, where they have specific roles which are subsidized by the government, which are specifically for 18 to 24-year-olds on universal credit. It's a really, really good entry into the games industry if you've recently graduated, finished college, left school, don't necessarily have any formal qualifications in anything. There are loads of different routes into the games. There is someone on Twitter called Sarah Mercado. She works for Intergames, and she is responsible for the Kickstarter team. She is fantastic at getting people their first job in games who maybe haven't had traditional routes in. But the underpinning of this is the Intergames Discord, where they post all of their events, all of the information and everything on there. And then also other people like myself who are industry professionals who do talks and stuff and share resources and presentations. So if you want to learn more about the games industry in general, that is the place to be.
Cool. I definitely recommend that, and the Kickstart scheme as well, because I've got some interns who have been working with me on that, so I can recommend that as a good sort of first step. Any other shout outs? This is like turning into the Oscars, where it's like I want to shout out my agent, my family, anyone else going once, going twice. All right, cool.
And I give a shout out to my cat.
Your cat.
His name is Mac, and he's ginger and white, and he's a beautiful little boy.
Will he make an appearance today?
Or
Yeah, isn't that the thing?
Could we
usually
be so
with,
lucky?
yeah, usually when the
Oh.
cameras go on, the cats just walk
Yeah.
across.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, that's not going to happen today.
Mine is a very old and fat cat, and
It's
he doesn't like to jump onto the desk. So
Fair enough. But thank you, everyone, for joining me for this panel, for giving us your expertise, your experience, and your perspective on breaking into the industry. So definitely appreciate you making the time to join me here. I hope everyone has took something from that. You've enjoyed it. You've taken something away. I'll get the links and everything to everyone's social media. Put that in the comments in the description, so you can follow people online. You can always let us know your thoughts in the comments as well, in our GamePad Discord or by email. Our email address is gamepad@mayamada.com. And don't forget to follow us here on YouTube, and also go over to Twitch and follow us so you don't miss out on future live stream events, interviews, and other stream activities that we have in the works. And if you want to hear more of my voice, you can subscribe to our Story X Story podcast, where Tazzy and I discuss stories across pop culture and have really great discussions with a variety of guests from creative industries, from video games, obviously, to comics, concept art, cosplay, every type of creative person on there. So that has been our panel for another GamePad Online. That's all from us. We will see you soon. Stay safe and stay tuned, for what we have coming next. So take care, everyone. Hey there, I'm Nigel from mayamada. Thanks for watching our video. Don't forget to subscribe and check out the other great videos we have on the channel. You can also join the GamePad Discord and check out the next event at gamepad.events. We'll see you soon.